Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be mostly ham radio related video. I haven't made a video probably in close to a year. But first of all, I wanted you to read my t-shirt. And let me get a little closer so you can read it better. Oops, wrong way. Okay, yes, I had to ask her to be down here in my man cave to produce the video. Well, tonight's video is going to be about coax. How to mount coax into a regular old PL 259. Now, this right here, of course all ham operators know that is a PL 259. That's used for 99.9% of mobiles and base radios. Now these new little Chinese jobs coming out are using the SMAs, and they're okay. They're very tiny. They won't carry the wattage that this will carry. But my point of tonight's video is constructing a PL259 on to the end of a piece of coax. It's not hard, but you would be surprised how many people actually come to me and say, "Can you do this for me?" Or, "Something's wrong, it's not working, it's shorted out." Well, I believe that's what I'm going to be working on to show you my way of making a shortless, funny word, a coax without a short into a PL259. I think you might find it interesting. It's not going to be a very long video, but I'm going to be doing this in 2 different days because I want to cut in half a PL259. I want to cut one of these directly in half so you can see the inside and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So, now that my preview is set, I'm going to turn this thing off. I'm going to cut me one. I'm going to get the coax end ready so I can show you how I clean it up and get ready to mount it in the PL259. So, stand by. Okay, I'm going to get started with preparing the end of the coax. Now, there is the shield. I hope this is clear. There is the shield ready to come off. Use my thumb to pull it the rest of the way off. Now, here's where it becomes a little tricky. Stand by. I must have done this 50 times if I've done it 100. There's 2 pieces of equipment that have to go on the coax so when it's finished they're in the right place. Now of course I have a shortened piece of coax for demonstration purposes only, but there's 2 pieces that you must know. One of them is this. This is the ground side that you'll be soldering to internally, and I just dropped the outside piece. Stand by. Okay, picked it up. This is the outside piece. That's really the whole holder for the whole thing. This goes on the coax also in that position. This will slide up to the end with this shield portion folded back. This will be the part that actually screws onto the back of the radio. This is an SO239, and this is the part that this screws on to here for the back of the radio. Of course, the coax will be mounted inside it, already soldered, ready to go. So again, a lot of things that a lot of guys forget to put on the ground portion. You'll see this used later, and the actual head. All right, getting back to the coax, I forgot to mention, I have taken this piece off the end of here. I cleaned it right off, and I'm going to lay it down. Now, I'm not throwing that away. That actually is the important part of this whole video. So let me get this thing going here. Okay, I'm back to where I was. Here's a little trick that a lot of guys used to like to use too. Being that this is actually a braided line and it's hard to fold back, a lot of guys will split this apart so that all you have are separate strands. And as you can see, it's starting to come all apart. And that piece that I told you not to forget about will come up to about the end of this. Now this gets folded back. This is the shield, this is the ground, this is the part that will keep your radio signals protected. Now as you can see, they're a little long right here where the threads start. Right there where the threads start. So what I normally do is I measure them. Then I got myself a little piece of shears. Little piece. Yeah, I'm all right. A little shear and give it a haircut. So that all this wire and there's still some long ones in there, so stand by. I'm going to get them all trimmed. Hang on. Okay, here comes the important piece. I take this and I cut off approximately 1/8 of an inch. Let's get it flat first. That's about as flat as it's going to get. I cut off approximately 1/8 of an inch. And that's all I have is that little tiny piece right there. This little tiny piece saves a lot of shorts. There's where I put that little piece. Right there. Now the reason for that and the PL259 that I'm going to be cutting, I will show you this. There's one more cut you got to make. Not a cut. There's one more thing you have to do for the right measurement inside this. And that's measuring from the back of here inside to the tip of here. So you're talking about from approximately here to here, the length of the center conductor. It has to stick out the end here so you can solder it. So as you can see how this is going together, I already have the end of this sticking out just a little bit, but that silicone has to be cleaned off so I can solder it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is take off that much. I personally like to twist it. Okay, I've got it all trimmed, and as you can see, the outside shield now stops right where the thread starts, right about there. And I personally like to tin this. Tin it is putting a little bit of solder on here to make sure when I put it in here and solder here that that's already tinned. This will get solder inside this brass piece and it will be a good solid connection. So my important part now is getting this cut in half to finish my video. So stand by. Here comes the part that I wanted to make this video all about. That piece of covering, coating from the outside. is to me a very important part because of the inside of the PL 259, which I just lost. Okay, anyways, I'll get back to that. Okay, I found it. Hang on. Because of the inside of this part, which everybody knows is the actual head of the PL 259. So I'm going to put this back because I have to start cutting on it. Stand by. Okay, I've cut the PL 259 so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about inside right here. You can see how there's a little bevel on this brass piece that's sticking through the Bakelite, and this little bevel is wide enough that when you stick this in without this rubber piece on it and you slide this all the way up, you can see where these strands could possibly touch that brass down inside. So every time I make one now, I use the extra piece that I have that I cut, and I slide on a little rubber sleeve. Now, I don't know how many other guys would have considered this, and it could be thinner. This piece right here can be thinner, as long as it prevents this from touching that brass piece in there. And that's exactly what this will do. So it's ready to be soldered in place, and I'll show you how. Well, now I'm having a little trouble here. I'll show you how this works. This is ugly, so let's clean it up and get these back down where they belong. There we go. All right, now you see how I have it on there. Okay, since I won't be soldering this one, I want to show you how this now works. This piece will be inserted and screwed up to the end far enough all the way. Let me get my pliers and do this so I can save time. Okay, I have the end piece, the holder, screwed all the way up tight as far as it can go. Now they have little windows in here. Right there's the little window I'm talking about. That's for soldering the shield to the outside. You can see I have the coax sticking out here. This would have already been tinned. That means I've already got a little layer of solder on it. And I would be heating up this and this at the same time, with solder being touched right here where my tip is, to get a good connection on this centerpiece. After this is all done, I get the old multimeter out, and here come the lines. And first of all, I hope you guys can hear that. I check to make sure that this is not touching this. And as you can see, I'm not getting, again, here we go. So this is touching all this stuff down here, so that this is not touching here, which it isn't. It's not touching the wire. It's not touching anything. It's got Bakelite, which doesn't allow juice to flow through. So to check the rest of the coax, I would check here and the center conductor at the other end to make sure I got good contact. All right, it's hard to hold this and do it at the same time. Stand by. All right, I put that end in there. Now I'm going to check this end. There we go. You can hear it. Center contact to center conductor. I got a good contact there. Then I can check the outside. So I would check from here to the outside, and there we go. I have a good coax. This one for demonstration only, but I would have a good coax, and then this, of course, would slide up it would screw on, covering everything up. And once it would get up to the end, it becomes the connection for the radio. And that would be a finished end for the coax with my little trick of that 1/8 inch piece of the shield internally. Less chance of the center conductor touching the outside ground. That would be my hole complete, minus the solder. Oh, and you see the little window right there. There, and the window here. Sometimes they don't have the little square window like this. They have holes. Well, where this outside shield comes up inside the holes is where you would solder. What I also like to do is pull out a little bit of that shield, fold it inside here, and solder right along here to make sure it makes good contact also. You have less chance of breaking it. You can see if the solder breaks just by pulling this part back later and checking things out. But that's my take on proper soldering. If anybody has any other ideas, I'd be glad to hear from you. I am done with this video. Stand by. I'm back where I was. Thank you everybody from my man cave. I hope you've learned something. You see how I do it. You still have your own choice to do it the way you want. The important part is that little 1/8 inch piece of rubber cover that I slide down to prevent the shield from hitting the center conductor. That's the whole reason I wanted to do this video. The rest of it, 99.9% of the ham operators, amateur operators out there know what to do. This is my take. Thank you very much for watching, and might be another month or two before I put another video out. Thank you everybody. I'm clear.